Ayatollah Khamenei, tweeted almost every day, "Death to Israel."
I want to see no nuclear weapon in Iran.
All right, the escalating Iran-Israel conflict puts the United States in a precarious position, facing intense pressure to intervene even as it seeks to avoid another costly entanglement in West Asia. At the heart of this dilemma is this question: will America be drawn into the Iran-Israel war? Well, U.S. President Donald Trump just a short while ago said that U.S. has complete control of the skies over Iran. Trump called for unconditional surrender from Iran and said he knows exactly where Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, is hiding, but will not take him down. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said, and I quote him here, "Iran had good sky trackers and other defensive equipment, and plenty of it, but it does not compare to American-made, conceived and manufactured stuff. Nobody does it better than the good old USA." He hailed the use of US-made weaponry, although without explicitly mentioning Israel. Trump's remarks comes hours after he said that he wants to end the Israel-Iran war and not go for ceasefire. The US Embassy in Israel struck by an Iranian missile on Monday, the first strike of an American diplomatic facility in this conflict. It points at escalation concerning bigger than ever before. Though, at least so far, the US has spoken of restraint. There's also no denying that powerful forces are pushing America closer to deeper involvement. First, Israel's call. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has formally requested US military to target Iran's deeply buried Fordo uranium enrichment site. Israeli officials confirm that they lack the capability to destroy this facility independently. Secondly, there's mounting domestic political pressure on the US president from within his own party. Former Vice President Mike Pence stated that if Israel needs US help to destroy Iran's nuclear program, the US should be prepared to do it, calling Israel its most cherished ally. Republican senators and hawks in Washington have urged Trump to go all in, including providing bombs or flying with Israel and not to be missed. The direct attacks on US interests, such as the attack on the embassy in Tel Aviv. Looking forward, Tehran could also attack international shipping in the Gulf or Red Sea, triggering a global energy crisis and potentially forcing US intervention. But the US entering the conflict carries immense dangers. Iran has vowed retaliation against any country aiding Israel. About 40,000 US troops in West Asia with their bases, embassies and naval vessels face immediate missile attacks from Iran or its proxies. If Iran feels its regime is existentially threatened, it might accelerate its nuclear program to develop a weapon, leading to an even more dangerous security landscape, and also an economic fallout would be global. The Strait of Hormuz, a crucial choke point for 20% of the world's oil, could become a war zone, causing energy prices to spike and also destabilizing global markets. Tensions simmer and Israel presses forward, and the risk of the regional war spiraling out of control with potential US involvement remains dangerously real. This crisis could very well define Trump's second term. All right, and to talk more on this and the latest tweets and statements by the US President, we now have with us Frederick H. Fletz from Washington, D.C. Mr. Fletz is the former NSC Chief of Staff and CIA analyst. Welcome to WION, Mr. Fletz. First up, with Trump clearly saying that we have complete control over Iranian skies, do you think this is an indication of the U.S. involvement in the war?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I believe President Trump's preference, strong preference, is diplomacy and to avoid getting the U.S. involved in another war. And I think the the door is still open to diplomacy with Iran. Iran was made a very generous offer in which the U.S. would have supported a peaceful nuclear program with a system that would have provided it with nuclear fuel, nuclear reactors, nuclear medicines. But Iran wanted to continue its program, the only purpose of which is making nuclear weapons. And Trump has decided he can't go along with that. And obviously, that was Israel's decision.
I do want to take another question on the fact you say that Trump's agenda right now is diplomacy, but Iran has clearly said that it'll only come on the negotiating table once the Israeli strikes stop. But Trump has made no move towards any kind of de-escalation from the Israeli side. What do you have to say on that?
Iran is not in a position to put out such conditions. I think if Iran said, we're going to return to the negotiating table and we're going to talk about enrichment, the strikes will stop. But Iran's practice for decades has been to join negotiations, agree to nothing, and stretch them out to avoid international criticism and possible attacks. Well, those days are over.
Just on that statement by Trump, what does Trump mean when he says we have control over the skies?
I think he's referring to Israel having air superiority over Iran, which means that if the U.S. was to fly its B-2 bomber with bunker buster bombs to destroy the Fordo enrichment facility, and that's where Iran's going to make nuclear weapons fuel, that the U.S. would fly in unopposed because Israel's air defenses have proven very weak. Iran's air defenses have proven very weak, and what they have has been destroyed.
All right. And Trump has also said that the aircrafts are in the skies and they're controlling the Iranian skies. What does it effectively do at this point of time?
Well, I think we're looking at the president making a decision. Does he want to get involved? Bombing this nuclear site would be a provocative action. And the Iranians are claiming that if America gets involved in the war and doing something like that it won't participate in negotiations. But this is the decision that the president may decide to make if Iran refuses to budge on the enrichment issue.
He also said that unconditional surrender, that's what Trump has said in his post. What is he communicating, and is that perhaps feasible?
Well, Trump is a deal maker, and I think he's making it clear that he's pushing for a tough deal that Iran has to give up its enrichment program, its pursuit of nuclear weapons. But look, this deal would have economic benefits too. It would be an enormous benefit. And President Trump is not calling for regime change. That might occur from these attacks, but that's something previous U.S. presidents have called for. Trump has not called for that.
But on that tweet where he says that you say that U.S. has superiority of the Iranian skies, does that mean that the U.S. aircraft is now being used? Is it involved in the attacks over Iran?
No American aircraft are being used over Iran at this time. And I think the only U.S. involvement may be flying B-2 bombers from the base of Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean to drop bunker buster bombs on the Fordo site and possibly another underground site.
What are the risks and gains for Trump if he decides to join the war and fight alongside Israel? Because Iran has clearly earlier vowed retaliation against any country aiding Israel.
Yeah, Iran is always promising retaliation against other countries. And when I hear Iran is threatening retaliation against the U.S. if the U.S. gets involved in this war, I would remind your viewers, the Iranian government is already trying to assassinate President Trump. It's already at war with the U.S. This is a state sponsor of terror. It's destabilized the region. It was behind the Hamas October 7th attack. And I think for people of India, it's worth recognizing that Iran got its nuclear program from A.Q. Khan and from Pakistan. And A.Q. Khan spread nuclear proliferation around the world to Libya, to North Korea, to Iran, and maybe to other countries. This is a rogue state nuclear weapons program. It's time to end it.
Right, Mr. Fritz, thank you so much for joining us here on WION and sharing your insights with us.